All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:31. I hope everyone's feeling well. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. At this point, I've been up since 4:45. I'm sure you guys have been as well. Drink a little bit of water. Got a nice little sweat out. A little 20 to 5:20 in the sauna. Nice little pump as I think about ways to maneuver the day. As I said yesterday, at this time, cooler heads prevail. It's always better to have levels, better to have a go-to list of stocks to watch to see if relative strength shows up, to see if there are ways to make money on the over emotion. And here we are, literally 24 hours later, and the world looks a little bit different. Just like that, right? Keep the TVs off, keep the friggin' frou-frous out there off out of your mind, and have your levels. And yesterday we talked about 675. Look at that, 675, 675, 675, 675. Guess what? Market opened below 675, went down to 669 below 671. Every bear, every crash caller was loud and clear, and guess what? The market told you there was no downside follow through. So it reclaimed 671. Okay. And then if the market was going to implode and see 655, what did it have to do? It had to stay below 675 instead. It started to grind up, reclaimed 677, went as high as 682. And if you look right now, this is where the spies are, just like that, right back in the range. Not really easy. They had every chance to break the range and didn't. A lot of volatility out there, a lot of headlines out there, and it just didn't happen. And if you were long from the day before, from Monday, because Monday looked like a very, like taking everything in stride, yesterday was a tough day. It definitely was, trying to figure out how to salvage trades, figure out what to add to, what to do. But if you're up early and your mind is right and you're thinking clearly and you're prepared, you could always salvage your trades and get out and maybe even have a great day. A lot of guys had their best day ever yesterday in the midst of the Dow down 1,200 points. Why? Because they didn't lose their cool. What were things we were looking at yesterday? Software that was the punching bag of the market for months turned into a buy the dip the past week or so. IGV made its overthrow low. Did your red dog reversal, 76.42, made a low, higher low, higher low. Guys were buying the IGV and made really good money yesterday. Why did they buy the IGV? Because Microsoft held its level again and went green, right? Red dog reversal here. Some guys that swing trade, that aren't that active, that have jobs that like to look for swing trades, they bought Microsoft at 383.10 and they're just holding it. Those who were more active, you could have bought it yesterday versus 390. That was the thought yesterday. Can Microsoft hold 390? Well, guess what? It held 390. Now you have this inverted little head and shoulders pattern. And I don't know if it's going to clear 407, but hey, maybe, so Microsoft's been better. Yesterday we were talking about ServiceNow. The CEO bought 3 million shares. Stock was down $1.50. When software went green, ServiceNow went $3. Look at that. But guys were buying it versus 104. World didn't end there. Way to make cash flow, way to make P&L. Everyone did really well. Talked about that yesterday also. Even Oracle, which was the laggard, wound up holding. Here's 135, 138, 141. So software was really good. And then if you remember, on Monday with the 6:30 Club, we talked about how Bitcoin changed a little bit, right? Bitcoin changed a little bit. Instead of being down on Monday morning when the futures were down 45, 50 handles, it was flat. Flat was the new special for Bitcoin because it stopped going down. It diverged. The character changed. If you were thinking clearly, maybe you bought some Bitcoin, or maybe you bought some coin, maybe you bought some Robinhood, maybe you did a bunch of things. Depends on how active you are, And if you look at Bitcoin this morning, Bitcoin is having a little bit of upside. It's showing a little bit of upside. So Bitcoin did hold again. Okay, and now it's at 71. Look at that. Sideways and finally went up. Maybe it'll get to 74, right? So within Bitcoin acting well in your head, what goes up with Bitcoin? Some guys on the alpha team, they're all in coin. Because look at that. Nice little inverted head and shoulders pattern. Nice little bull flag on top. You had the SPYs make a new weekly low yesterday. You had the Qs make a new weekly low. And did coin do that? No. So guys in the alpha team, like, we're buying more coin. Congratulations. Well, now, you have IBIT up a little bit at $1.55, and look at coin, right? Coin right here is up $10. There you go. Little cash flow. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. That's what we do. If you can keep your head, if you can keep your mind right, you can execute using techniques we've been using for, I don't know, I've been doing this since 1998. I'm actually a little tired. But anyway, so that was coin. Robinhood was a little tricky, but never stopped, kind of never stopped you out if you had a stop down there, right? If you had your stop at 170.43 or the low here, it's still going sideways after a move down from 153. If you held your nose the whole way down, then you don't have the opportunity down here. Yes, Trump is going to meet with the CEO to push the crypto bill. That could help. Market kind of knew. That's why you had relative strength. Market always knows. And sometimes you don't know why, but it knows. Everyone's got some loose lips out there. But anyway, with that being said, little things. Then yesterday, people like, hey, Red Dog, what about ASTS? I'm like, ASTS is only down $1. SPYs are down 12. ASTS is down $1.50. I'm like, that's relative strength. That's looking strong in a sea of red. In a sea of red, whatever goes green first and the market follows, that's what has upside. That's why I'm the chief strategic officer, whatever. Anyway, so ASTS, look at that. Nice move. Didn't make a new low, didn't open below, actually opened green. And some guys were adding above 87, 88. And then even into the pullback yesterday, I'm like, hey guys, just pulled back $4 or $5. If you want an entry in ASTS, it's looking better above the moving averages. Earnings are out of the way. And, ASTS is up another 269. So these are the little things you have to do as a trader. Not focus on the TV set, not focus on what's trending on Twitter, not looking at TikTok specials. You're looking at the charts and you're learning your process and routine because it works and it should work. And it's supposed to keep you even keeled so you could do it every day. So ASTS was good. And then when ASTS was only at $4, I'm like, hey guys, look at Rocket Labs. Rocket Labs trades with ASTS. So what you might want to do is you might want to play it to go red to green. And what did Rocket Labs do? It's not looking as good as ASTS, but went red to green. You could be long Rocket Labs versus 63 area. Yes. Talked about Palantir also. Palantir, we said, hey, it was strong on Monday. It's kind of like the war trade. It's looking a little bit better. And that too, filled the gap, made a higher low, acting better. For a while, it was leading the market lower. And now, just like software, it's holding in better. That's what you call the rebuild process. If you're trading it, congratulations. Some guys are starting to make better money again. And now, Palantir, what are you doing this morning? I bet you it's got to be up a bunch. It's up $1.20. There you go. Outstanding TIA and Oracle yesterday. Thank you. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for you guys, to make you guys money, to set you guys up for success. That's why you're a member of the Alpha team. That's why you tune into the 630 Club, and hopefully a member of Red Dog Mindset. Subscribe above. So this way, one day you try and find the 630 Club, and if you can't get it because you're just a public Twitter community member, you might lose it. So subscribe above. I've been doing this for free since 2020, besides everything else, connecting the dots. Anyway, Nvidia did hold well. I agree. Little inside day in Nvidia. Nvidia was out of play yesterday, but it held in there. So if you're long versus 174, great. If you're long versus 171, great. If you get out of the way at 193.80 post earnings, it made it easier to be a buyer on Monday. And then if you have your stop here, okay, great. You didn't get stopped out. Now Nvidia's up a bunch today, right? It's up 249. There you go. Isn't that nice? Anyway, here, this gap is kind of gone. It's got a lot of moving averages it's got to reclaim before doing anything. So it's got to get above this 184. What is this? 183.46 and start eating away. So it's not going to be moving like Nvidia when it's a momentum name, but just like everything else, there are ways to trade the ranges. SATS EchoStar owns 20% of Musk's base IPO coming out soon. Well, that's cool. SATS, we want to take a look at that for you. I don't really look at this name. That's looking good. Big gap up here. It's traded in the direction of that gap up. Nice breakout here. Look at that. And above the moving average. So yeah, EchoStar looking good. If you're in this one, something that I don't usually play, looks like it's heading higher. Congratulations. You did your homework. That's good for you. Drone stocks are a little annoying, I'll be honest. Apple didn't work. That's true. So it worked for some. I got stopped out when I left the lunchtime, and then it rallied $3. So you want to look at Apple? Blair, you're usually more positive than that. Apple did hold right here. Okay. I put, because I am a creature of rules and I'm rule based and I had to leave at lunchtime, I put my stop here at the low at wherever it was, and it went below it by like 20 cents. And then I didn't buy it back. So yeah, so that happens. Anyway, so Apple still looks fine. Most mega cap tech is just little fine, not special, not momentum, fine range trading. So if you got out at 271 when you had a lower high here, maybe you have a higher low there, you got back involved. Same way with Amazon. Amazon, you're hanging by a thread, held 203. Even yesterday, I said in the 630 club, if it holds 203, maybe it's worth a look. Well, I probably went below it by 50 cents. So you had to give it 50 cents or go back to it. Now, at some point, it feels like it's going to get above this 211, 212 and fill this gap, but we'll see how that goes. Google's been a little weaker, but it's fine, right? What did it do? It kind of made a double bottom here. 296. What's this? 296. So, yeah. So, if you weren't too caught up, you got a little bit of a double bottom here. Now, we'll see if it rebuilds. That could happen. Call me Myron. Scott, are the SanDisk MUs ready to break? I don't know if SanDisk and MU and those guys start to break lower. Now it's getting a bounce today. I would not be buying it. My friends started selling premium up here. They were selling the 7.25, 750s right around here. It's tricky. Who knows? Maybe it just needs time to build, this upper channel. But for the last few days, it's just not acting the same. MU broke below the 8 and 21 day. So I would not, you could say this is your new point of reference. STX broke first. This group is, broke below right there, 396. It was in a good channel. Looked like that's the problem. Like that's what traders are getting a little, tired about. You have a really nice trend, an upper bull flag consolidation right here. Kind of looked like it was showing relative strength, ready to go, and then breaks down. It's hard to find really good patterns that you could buy in the pattern, and then it triggers, and then it goes, and you high five your desk mate. It's just the worn out range trading. So if you get worn out, it's not going to do anything for you. So you got to figure out ways to keep yourself happy, keep your blood moving, and stay on your game. But yeah, Dell looks good. I didn't even look at Dell yesterday. Dell, kind of shook the tree a little bit. If you're long versed the gap pivot of 136, just give it there. Don't overdo it. It'd be nice to see if something works out where it builds in here and then continues. Dell does look all right, but again, this should hold 136, go sideways. You could be long versed there, and it could continue. What's Dell doing this morning? Dell is it's up 237. So yes, so there are things that move up the totem pole when the markets are in a corrective phase that show relative strength. Even Poet, remember little Poet? Poet actually even hung in there yesterday, while, the market came in. So paid you to stay in it. So if you were long here and you added in here, yesterday didn't get hurt. But anyway, Tesla's a pain in the ass, excuse my French. I think yesterday was more of a trap again. Like this stock is just not trading well. Sorry. Like even yesterday it was funny. Yesterday I was looking at it, and thank God I didn't short it. It looked like he has 387, 388. It was finally below the 200 day. Below the 200 day, gave you a bounce off it, a tiny bounce off it, and then it looked like it was going to break down. They kept it below 387, 388 for like 15 minutes and then squeezed the shorts. All they want to do is stop people out this way, trap people the other way, and then counter trend trade. So it's kind of getting annoying. But it's what it is what it is. What are you going to do about it, right? What's Tesla doing today? Now it's up 750. So if you didn't cover your short, when it reclaimed this 388 area, 387 area, what was the slow here? 388, now you're like, it's up, but where is it really? It's just going to come into the moving averages, and if you're long it, you sell some. Life on the range. Who's in the TOS Trader Lounge? Anyone? What's TOS Trader Lounge? I don't know. Anyway, also feels like the XLE is getting a little tired, but it's fine. If you've been in the XLE since 45 or 47.50, when it broke above this range, congratulations. If you bought it back here at the 8th day, you got paid into strength and you sold some strength. And now, see what happens here. Does it want to hold here, or was that it with the energy? Because energy became the hyper focus. Everyone on TV, all they talked about is how long they are in energy, oil, and this and that with the whole Middle East conflict. And now maybe because it got so loud, it's got to retrace. Because that's what the market's doing. The louder a group gets, the more sentiment goes somewhere, the more they do the counteraction of that with the computers. Just the way it is. Tesla's still a short, Rick? Okay. So, yeah, I wouldn't be buying Tesla on this up open. If you didn't buy Tesla yesterday when it reclaimed, this low here of 388, that's the only way you could do it. You can only do it when it's a false move. The false move turns into a fast move, and then the move you want hasn't really been happening. That's just the way the market's been. At some point, the market will have momentum. At some point, there'll be follow through. There is in select places, but it's hard to be looking for that when it's only in select places and it feels like the macro is so negative. But anyway, BE Energy today. Okay, let's see what that looks like. My friends love this at $10. They loved it down here. Look at that. Anyway, it goes to show you that stocks can be reborn. What do I think of Bloom Energy? Yeah. Looks good. Looks fine. I'm not in it, but if you with BE, it's up 4. Trim and trail. One of my rules is when I'm in an overnight, whenever a gap happens, I always ring the register, just like Cream Dog. No, I'm kidding. Up through you trim it a little bit, even if you're in coin, and it's up 10. If you have 1,000 shares, sell 300, and then manage the trade. So it comes in, you could buy the 300 back. If it goes up, you can make more. Yes. So you think Sanders should go over 5,9,600 levels? Let's see. Let's see what Sanders right now is. This is the 21-day, right? This is 597, 597, hit 557. I'd be surprised if what Sanders, it's up 22. Yeah, I would think if there was no reason to buy this, to be honest. Like, if you're buying this move lower below the 8 and 21-day, just instead, they probably just trap some shorts. If anything, I would see if you could be, if you're long it, reduce. And then really, 597 is one resistance, and then the other resistance is here. Like this area is probably more of a short than a buy, if it could even get there. But you said you would add to the EWY. Let's see. Somebody was saying that because you can't. All right, so here's EWY, South Korea. Right, it's supposed to be 21% off the highs. So EWY, it's at 128, right? So that's 127, 128. So because my blood in the street account isn't to put away South Korea's ETF. My blood in the street account is for when the S&P has 5% or more pullback off the highs, I start tearing in. I have a 401k that I put monthly flows in every month. I don't overmanage that. That is, what I'm accumulating for the next 20 years. I've been doing that. That's if you have a 401k and you max it out, that will make you money and wealth. If you have a 529, started chases at 5, started when they're 1. And then my wife has a 403b because she's in private practice. But the blood in the street, I can't contribute, so I only do when it's 5% or more off the highs. So for 5 to 7% off the highs, tier 1, 11, 12%. Yeah, tier 2, where sometimes I start there. 21% usually, like I was in the SPYs. So you go here. I'm just trying to teach the South Koreans what to do with their blood in the street account. Okay, basically, the blood in the street account went to work in a lot of these yellow spots. Here went to work, got out. Here went to work, got out. Here went to work, got out. Here went to work. In this pullback during last year, the 21% went to work 3 times. So up here, it's not quite going to work. Now look how they saved this again. This is your weekly chart. So if you're in South Korea and you're watching the 630 Club and you're like the Red Dog, you know what you do? Take an ETF that correlates to, kind of like a SPYs or the S&P cash, And if you have a blood in the street account and you're in South Korea, you should be in tier 2 with 2 more tiers just in case. During the pandemic, if you remember, back in 2020 was the first time we went to like tier 4. And that was here. Actually, I don't even know if we went to tier 4, went to tier 3. But guess what? Look how fast it came back. It happens. Corrective phases happen. That's what helps your average cost in your 401ks and your 529s, And if you have a blood in the street account, you can only put it to work when there's blood in the street. Right now, there's not blood in the street. S&P is not even down where we are now, like 3%. Anyway, with that being said, seems like the blood. I have, no, that's not true. Biopharma, yes. If you have a 401k, you do not treat that like a blood in the street. You just put your money in every month and go to your job and let it make you money over 30 years. If you want to trade stocks for a living and find a stock like Nvidia or find a stock that's done great like in Apple or like in ASTS, some guys found ASTS at $4. Look at ASTS. At $4 they found it down here. So there are ways to do that too. It's all different types of time frames, different types of work you have to do. I just try and tell you that, hey, I've been doing this since 1998, and over, 25, 30 years, I've developed 6 different accounts. In my active trading world at T3, where I'm the chief strategic officer, I have an active account to trade the over motion, kind of like yesterday, a swing account to be in a ton of swings when the market's trending, which I don't have a ton of swings on now because it's not trending. It's choppy and hard. I have an option account for binary events, which you have to have with bios, because I just got crushed in a bio in options and it could have been worse. Remember this QURE? Imagine I had the stock. Okay. Instead, I was accumulating here because my smartest friends said that they were going to get approved for the Huntington's disease, and it didn't. So I lost a ton of money in my options, but it could have been a lot worse. So got to have option account for that. And that's true. It's transparent. Then I have a box account that makes my trades bigger or smaller. But within those 4 accounts, I make a living and I also get paid because I do content, and that's what goes to the 401k. So lots of different ways to approach the market. Learn, grow, manage them all, and have a great life and keep yourself sane, safe, and positive. So when times like yesterday happen, you're not being spun around. When markets are tricky, you're not going on tilt, because those kind of things suck. And when that happens to you, I don't want to see it happen to any of my dogs. I don't want to see you on tilt. I don't want to see you feeding small countries by giving money away in no man's land. I want to see you strategic. I want to see you planned. I want to see you on your game. I want to see you happy. Got to be happy too. My family's not very happy right now. We lost in the second round of states, and Chase is friggin' miserable, and I'm trying to make him happy. It happens. Same night that the futures were down 120 handles. That kind of sucked also, but guess what? I'm trying to move forward. These type of things happen. We'll look back and laugh at some point. And some people enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing this job. My thoughts on MBIS before I go. Let's see what MBIS looks like. Whole lot of range trade crap. Excuse my French. It did bottom down here. Okay, great. Just range trade crap. That's what we have a lot going on here. Sorry, I'm gonna just gonna tell like it is. I spoke to a lot of my friends who've been doing this for 25 years. I got a text from my buddy Lou, who I love to death. He's like, "This sucks." I'm like, "I get it. There's ways to make money, and it's great, but it's just, it's just not a great momentum environment, and that happens. So when that happens, you got to control what you can control, and that's your keyboard, your process, and what you could do." There you go, Rich. I'm just trying to tell it like it is. I mean, Rick's on the alpha team. He's been doing this for a long time too, so we get it. JP Morgan also. Look at that. Hanging by a thread. Hanging. Below, right around the 200-day too. But guess what? If you got out of it here and then you resold it on the retest, you're fine. Maybe you're making some money there. I love you, Rod. I love you guys. Here we are. I'm going to let's go with, here's the technical analysis that unites continents around the world. Here's to you guys that have been tuning into the 630 Club for years. Here's to the alpha team that spends the day. Here's to those I just saw, Traders for a Cause. It was fun to see guys I haven't seen in a while. And, just enjoy life. Every day above ground's a good day. Life's about ups and downs, and you don't fail unless you quit. And if things happen that are unexpected, that's why you do hard things, right? Try and put your own hard on you. I talked about this at the Traders for Cars. When you put races on a calendar and you outwork yourself out, if you put a goal on the calendar, like a half marathon, a marathon, an Ironman. I've done 2 Ironman. I swam from Alcatraz twice. No one said you could swim from Alcatraz. I said, you know what? That's what started my ice barrels. They call me the ice barrel trader. Like, I just started in the ice barrel. I'm like, well, in 2008, I swam from Alcatraz, and I had to take ice cold baths so this way I wouldn't have hypothermia swimming from the jail to get on my bike to do my triathlon for charity, and that helped formulate who I am. So if you're 25 years old, 30 years old, and you're trying to figure out how do you do some hard things, some selected hard, do some hard things that you achieve success because you've reached a goal, and that's what builds your inner strength so you can make decisions, whether it's at your job, whether it's with your family, or whether it's in life. But if you sit around with frou-frou gloves on and you're a spoiled brat, chances are spoiled brats, unless you inherit a lot of money from daddy, you're not going to be well. And even if you inherit a lot of money from daddy and mommy, doesn't mean you're going to be happy because you didn't do it yourself. Anyway, I'm ranting a little bit today. It happens. I used to do this thing called the Red Dog Rant back in the day for Trader Monthly magazine. Well, I'm ranting today. Have a good one. I appreciate you.